In this video, I'm going to show you how I use WP Rocket to drastically improve the page speed score of my clients' WordPress websites. I'll walk you through step by step every setting that I use on 100 client WordPress websites that I manage on a monthly basis. Now, with that being said, let's get stuck in. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover today. So first of all, why speed actually matters, why WP Rocket, Rocket Insights, which is a new feature in the latest version that I want to cover, my WP Rocket setup, so you can see exactly how I do it step by step, and then common mistakes and why I think it's worth it. So why speed matters. So Google ranks faster sites higher, and that's the bottom line. Core Web Vitals are a part of how Google decides who appears at the top of the search results. Bounce rate climbs with load time. So every extra second of loading sends more visitors hitting the back button. And that's exactly what we want to avoid, okay? Google have got two ways of monitoring this. So they can test your website for Core Web Vitals, as we just said, or if they can see that people are landing on your website and they're clicking back, then there's obviously something wrong with your website. So that signal is something we want to try and avoid. Mobile is the majority. So most of your traffic is going to be on mobile devices. And that's just the bottom line now. You can look at your Google Search Console, you can look at your Google Analytics, and the chances are, unless you're in some sort of unique niche, your mobile rate is probably going to be 50 to 90%. And mobile users are probably the least patient. And part of that is because most of the time they're going to be on a weaker network. They're not going to be on a high fiber or broadband. They're going to be on 3G, 4G, 5G, which could be slower. And speed converts. So slow sites kill conversions. Fast sites build trust before a single word is read. And again, I'm sure you've experienced it. You've gone on a website. It's been really fast. You feel comfortable. It's a good user experience. When it's slow and things take time to load, there's something that's sending a signal to your brain to say this is broken and it's not right. And then Page Speed Insight. So this is Google's free tool, uses real Chrome user data, and it's the score that actually affects your ranking. So most of the time, most people want to rank on Google. So why not use the tool that Google make available? Because it gives us the insights into how they see our website in terms of performance. So why WP Rocket? Now, I'm sure there's plenty of other plugins out on the market, but this is what I think. Years of real world use. Now, I've run it on client sites for years, and it's the speed plugin that I get the best results with. It pays for itself across 100 plus sites. I don't think it matters the number of sites that you've got, it pays for itself, okay? The time it saves me on configuration and debugging is worth more than the license itself. And generally speaking, if you're going to be performing speed performance optimization for clients, that's going to be some sort of charged service, whether that's going to be something that you do on a monthly basis or whether you do as a one time. But whatever it is, it does pay for itself. And it works the second you activate it. This is one of the things that I love about it. So caching kicks in on activation. You don't need to configure anything to see immediate results. And it works the second you activate it. So caching kicks in on activation. You don't need to configure anything to see some immediate results, okay? One thing I always like to do is I always do a speed test before installing the plugin. I install it, I activate it, run another speed test, and I can see instantly some results. And one plugin replaces 5. So caching, lazy loading, database optimization, file minification, font preloading, less plugin bloat, and fewer conflicts. And sensible defaults, deep options. So out of the box settings work for most sites. Advanced tabs are there if you need them. And then real support behind it. So the premium support, regular updates, proper documentation. When something breaks, you can talk to a human. And that's all you ask for when you're using a premium plugin. And it's compatible with everything. So it plays well with major hosts, page builders, and the plugins that you already use. So there's no chances of any surprises. And it's built for non-developers too. So it's got a clean dashboard, sensible defaults, no need to understand server config to get fast results. And the way I like to explain it is it's just something about it that's intuitive. A bit like when you pick up an iPhone for the first time, it just feels comfortable and you know what to do with it. WP Rocket is exactly the same. So how to get WP Rocket? So you get it direct, okay? So WP Rocket can be purchased directly from the wprocket.me website. It's a premium only plugin, so you buy it direct from them. Now, I'll put a link in the description. Now, obviously, if you want to follow along with this video and you don't have a copy of WP Rocket yet, then you can use my link if you want to support the channel. You know, it costs you nothing extra. You may even get a discount by using my link, and I'll get, some kickback for it as a thank you. Now, they've got 3 licensed here, which are single, plus, and multi, and you pick based on the number of sites that you manage. Now, as you can see, the currency shown will be your local currency. So for me at the moment, it would be 59 euros for a single website license. And that's 59 for a year, which is nothing. If you've got 3 websites that you want to manage, they've got the plus plan, which allows you, that's 119 euros for the year. And then the multi plan has got multiple different levels to it. So for 50 websites, you'd pay 299 a year. And then it looks like for 100 websites, it's 399. And then if you're managing 500 websites, then it's only 599 a year. So when you split that over the number of sites that you're using, it is very cost effective. Now, as you can see, it comes with a 100% money back guarantee for 14 days. So if you try it, it doesn't work for you, you can get your money back, no questions asked. So if you've decided you want to go ahead with this, then obviously you go and purchase it. And then once you've downloaded it, you install and activate it. So I've already got my license. I've already got my plugin downloaded. So what you do is you just log it into your dashboard and then you will install it. Now, before we do that, one thing I want to do is just show you this page speed score. Okay. So this is the website I want to work on today. This one's called Archway Court. You can see it's got some animations. There's a few things that need dealing with. Now, I just run a speed test score on it and I'm getting 22 out of 100, which is terrible on mobile, and on desktop 79, which isn't the worst, but there's obviously room for improvement there. We want to be getting this up to the greens, the high greens as well. So if we go to plugins and click add plugin, upload plugin, and then you can just grab your plugin and add it this way, or however you want to install your plugin. And then I click install now. Just give it a second. Activate plugin. Now, to access the settings, you can go into your plugins, WP Rocket and settings, or you can just go to settings, and at the bottom, you'll see the new WP Rocket menu item. So give it a setting to work itself out. And as you can see here, it's giving you some information. Yes, I do want to send non-sensitive diagnosis data so they can help them improve the plugin. And as we can see here, we've got an issue with our license. So let me just validate that license. And there we go. My license is now active. And as you can see, we're now into the dashboard. Okay, so this just shows you what we've got. Now, one thing I want to do, now that I've got it installed, let's just do another speed test and just see, if just by installing it, we get, a better result or not. I may speed this up because, it's boring waiting for it. Okay, so we can see absolutely no improvements at the moment on 24 on mobile, and then desktop's actually gone down to 64. This can fluctuate when you're using speed tests because of multiple reasons, but that's fine. We've got a good benchmark now and we know what we're dealing with. So the only thing I want to discuss quickly at this point is the dashboard. Okay, so I'll just show you, look, welcome to WP Rocket. It's now activated. You've got it in your license. The only thing on this page that you need is, it's up to you whether you do this or not, is whether you want to send your analytics to WP Rocket so that they can improve the plugin. I have no issue with that, and that's it. Okay, but that's all I want to do at this stage. Okay. Now, the next setting is Rocket Insights. Okay, and like I said, this is a new feature that's been added in the latest version. So built-in performance monitoring. So powered by GTmetrix and baked straight into your WP Rocket dashboard. And what I love about this is, quite often in the past, I would have had to do a speed test, go back to WP Rocket, make some changes, go and do another speed test, and just bouncing between sites. Whereas this is now built in directly into WP Rocket. And we'll have a look at it in a second, but that's what it is. And it's free with every license. So no extra subscription needed. It ships with the plugin. And you can track 10 pages, 4 metrics. So you'll monitor LCP, CLS, TBT, and TTFB across the pages that matter. And we'll go into what these mean as we start improving the scores in a moment. And you've got one-click fixes as well. So it tells you exactly which WP Rocket features will fix each issue and lets you activate them on the spot. It couldn't be easier than that. And automated checks, so schedule daily, weekly, or monthly tests so you spot regression before your visitors do. So I absolutely love this feature because what this now allows me to do is, like, historically, I've offered speed optimization as like a one-off service. So the client would pay me, I would then go in, optimize their website. And then maybe in, 6 months or a year down the line, the client might do a speed test themselves and notice that the scores have dropped a little bit just because of general usage and wear and tear. And I think now, because one of the things I have migrated to, I now offer clients this as part of a subscription. And what this allows me to do now is set up a schedule and get notified of speed scores. You could do it weekly or monthly. And then if there's any sign of regression, you can just jump on, make a few tweaks, and the client is happy and wouldn't know any different. So, I'm really pleased that they've introduced this. Okay, so let's have a quick look. So all you've got to do on the left-hand side, and you'll see it's this first menu item now that's been added in the latest version. So this is called Rocket Insights. And you can see by default out of the box, it's added the homepage, okay? And it's doing its initial analysis of your homepage. So you need to wait for that to finish, and then it'll give us some results and show us how we can improve the score of our homepage. Now, this first test does take a bit longer than normal, so I suggest that we just leave it and then we'll come back to it once it's finished. Okay, so that took a little bit of time, but it's given us the score now that we know what we're working with. So as you can see from the GTmetrix score that this has built, it's showing us that we've got a score of 32. So we've got some work to do. But what's great is on the right-hand side now, it's showing us some recommendations, and there's more recommendations we can look through. But what I'd like to do in this video is just show you my, initial settings that I would use, which would probably counter most of these, and then we'll revisit them if there's anything outstanding. But because we covered it, one thing you can do here is, enable this performance monitoring, and you can choose then how often that you want these to run. So it could be a daily check, a weekly check, monthly. I think maybe weekly or monthly will probably be enough. I don't think you need to run it daily unless, there's something drastic going on. But for now, we'll leave that off because we're going to just run through getting these settings done. So let me just save that. So these are my standard setups. Okay, so I'll run through the options that I use on my client website. So first up, we got file optimization. And these are things like minify CSS and JavaScript, optimize CSS delivery, and defer JavaScript. So be careful with combined JS though, because it can sometimes cause the site to break and then it requires some customizing. So if at any point when you're making any tweaks inside a WP Rocket, if anything breaks the website, just go back, revert it, clear the cache, and then you're all good, okay? Because the cache can do this, okay? My rule of thumb is I would 100% make one change, check the website. Make another change, check the website. And then that way you're never running, you want to know what has caused the break if it does happen, because it can happen. So file optimization, you can see this is the top item here. Just to show you what these are. So first of all, we got the CSS files. Okay, so first of all, we got CSS, minify CSS files. So let's enable that. Now, just to explain to you what this is actually doing. CSS generally looks like this. I don't know if you've looked at CSS, but that's generally what it looks like. And when you minify it, what happens is it removes all the spacing, all the comments, and it just makes it one line of CSS, which is really difficult to edit when you need to edit it, but it makes it a lot lighter and makes the file a lot smaller. So the requests for CSS files is a lot smaller. So I always like to enable that first of all. So let's just do that and click Save Changes. So we've now made one change. Let's go back to Rocket Insights and let's just rerun this test. And let's see if it makes any difference at all. Okay, now you just saw that. It went from, 34 or something, up to 89 with just one small change. Okay, so this stuff actually works. Okay, now one thing I didn't do, which I said we should do, is check the website. Now, if you don't know already, if you right click anywhere on your browser and go to inspect, this allows you to hard reload the cache. Okay, so what you can do then is hold down the refresh button and click empty cache and hard reload, and then we can close this down, and that clears the cache and starts a brand new fresh inquiry. So it gets the style sheet and everything from the server once again. So that has not broken the website. You can see it's clearly working. Obviously, it's worth you checking different elements of the pages, different pages to make sure that there's nothing. But this setting doesn't generally cause any breakage. So let's go back to file optimization. Now, the next thing is optimize CSS delivery. So this optimize CSS delivery eliminates render blocking CSS on your website. So only one method can be selected. So it's either remove unused CSS is the recommended one, or like I show you here, you can load CSS. I'm going to say this wrong, asynchronously. There we go. So remove unused CSS is the recommended method. And what I'll do is I'm going to activate that. Okay. So what this does, it'll actually start building up a cache file of its own CSS, of the CSS that's actually being used on the website. And that builds up over time. So let's just do that. Save changes. And we can now go back to the website. Again, let's just right click, inspect, hard reload. So empty cache and reload. And then we can just do, now don't be surprised when you're making changes to your website that sometimes the scores can fluctuate. Okay, so sometimes they'll be super fast, sometimes they might drop back down a little bit with different settings. But the point is just to keep going through it and making sure that, you know, you're getting good scores and improving over time. So I don't think it's worth doing the Rocket Insights every time. I just think we want to, you know, just work our way through it and, you know, gradually improve the score. So next up, we got minified JavaScript files. So this does exactly the same as what we talked about earlier. So instead of just doing the CSS, it also does the same thing with JavaScript. So there you can go. This is what JavaScript would look like. And this is what it would look like after minification. So it just makes the file size a little bit smaller again. So let's minify that and click Save Changes. You can see now that's done. So I can flick back to the website. Again, I can open up Inspect tool, do a hard refresh, and just check that none of the JavaScript is broken. You know, everything seems to be, it's quite a simple website, this one. But you can see there doesn't seem to be anything broken on this website. It all seems to be, you know, looking pretty good. Now, there's two other options that, well, a couple of options we can do here, okay? So first of all, you can combine the JavaScript files. So what this does is you've got multiple JavaScript files being loaded on your website. And what this does, it puts them all into one file to make less requests, okay? So combine JavaScript files combines your site's internal third-party and inline JavaScript, reducing HTTP requests. It's not recommended if your site uses HTTP or 2, okay? So you can test this, okay? Turn it on, activate, combine, and then click Save Changes. Then you can go back to your website. Again, I like to clear the cache. And then you can just browse through your website. Another thing you can do is right click, inspect, and you can look at your console. And sometimes you can see whether there's broken JavaScript or not. Okay, I know what this one is. It's not broken it. I know what it is. So I'm not concerned. But if there was something that was displaying there, that's where you would need to inspect a bit further. So yeah, so far it's looking good. We just made some more changes. I do enable load JavaScript deferred. Okay, so load JavaScript deferred eliminates render blocking JS on your site and can improve load time, okay? Now, the great thing about this is if you enable these settings and something in particular does get affected, you can add keywords or file names as exclusions. So what it'll mean is you can exclude files from taking that effect. So if one thing is being broken, if you exclude it, then it will do the same rule to all the other JavaScript apart from the one that is breaking. So that's a cool thing to do. So let's enable that and go back and check the website. Let's come back here. Let's inspect. Do a hard reload. And we can see reCAPTCHA is loading fine. The site seems to be loading. Yeah, there's no problems here. You know, you can tell. You'll know if your site's not working as it should. If you get that, then you need to go back and make some changes. Now, this option here, delay JavaScript execution. Now, while I find it to give the biggest boost in performance in score results, like you'll definitely get, you know, 99 or 100 maybe even by enabling this, be careful with it, okay? It's the last thing that I enable because it requires the most debugging. And for me, I don't always use this because what this does, it basically disables JavaScript from loading until user interaction. So what that means is when you load a page, JavaScript won't load until the user moves the mouse or there's some interaction from the user. Now, sometimes that doesn't have a negative effect on how the website looks, but sometimes the website, if it requires, relies on JavaScript, it can look broken. So you load the page will look broken, but then when the user moves the mouse, everything kicks in and then it looks nice again. You don't want that to happen, okay? So for me, I leave that. I only use it if I need to use it to get the score higher, but generally speaking, it will require a bit of debugging and fine tuning to make sure that it works properly. Because what you don't want to do is have something look broken when the page loads. Now you can exclude certain things. So let's say your slider is breaking on page load, then you could exclude the slider or the plugin, whatever it is, from that. So this one is a bit more advanced. I'm going to leave it disabled for now and click Save Changes. So we've not made any difference there. So they're the file optimizations, okay? And you can see there's only a handful of things there. It's not like, rocket science, but over time you will just, get familiar with these settings. So next up is media. So lazy loading images, iframes and CSS background images, and let WP Rocket add missing image dimensions automatically, okay? So quite often when you've built a website, you don't even consider some of these things. So let's go to media and you can see here. Lazy loading, it can improve actual and perceived loading times as images, iframes, and videos will be loaded only once they enter or are about to enter the viewpoint and reduce the number of HTTP requests. So imagine this. We come onto this page, yeah, and I've just clicked refresh, and what you'll see now is that every single image on this page has been loaded ready for it to appear, okay? Now, what lazy loading is I've loaded this page and 80% of this page is not in view. It's at the bottom. So what it would mean is we're not going to load, the website will decide not to load the images that are further down because they're not actually in view. So what's the point? Let's say, I land on the page and I go straight from here to one of these pages. Well, it would have been a complete waste of resources to load the images that are further down. Okay. So we're going to definitely enable that. We're going to enable it for images. You're going to enable it for CSS background images, and you can enable it for iframes and videos. So let's say you've embedded a map or you've embedded a YouTube video. You can just do that, okay? So image dimensions. So quite often you might use images that are a lot bigger than they need to be and they don't have image dimensions. So the browser finds it difficult to know at what size this image should be. So if you add the right dimensions, it loads it at the right size. So that is definitely an option that I enable. And generally with these, I do them all at one time because they don't tend to break the website. If there's any issue with the website breaking, you can revert back through them and disable them. So preloading fonts. So preload above the fold fonts to enhance layout stability and optimize text-based LCP elements. And then self-host Google Fonts. Okay, I don't think this website uses Google Fonts, but if it does, it'll put them on the server so that there's less, external requests. So let's click Save Changes there. And let's just come back to our website. Now, every time you click Save Changes, it clears the caches and reloads it again, okay? Now, I noticed there, I don't know if you did, if you go back, watch the video again, you'll see that when we were loading the page for the first time earlier, the logo took a bit of time to load, but this time, when we cleared the cache, wait for it to load, it's there a lot quicker, okay? So let's browse through these pages. I can see a significant improvement in speed here. And always when you're going to a page for the first time, it's rebuilding that page, okay? So as you can see, we're going back to these pages for the second time. It's already started to cache the elements because we cleared the cache. So these are new pages we've never visited before. So it's going to take a little bit longer for them to load for the first time. But now, as you can see, every page loads really quick. So that's media. All right, so we've done that. Next up, we've got preload. So this preloads the cache and your fonts. So As you can see on the left-hand side here, we've got a preload menu option, and it says here, when you enable preloading, WP Rocket will automatically detect your sitemap and save all URLs to the database. The plugin will make sure that your cache is always preloaded. So I suggest you enable that one. Again, if you run into any problems, you can exclude files there or disable it. And then preload links. This is an important one, but this is one worth you explaining a little bit more. So preload links. Link preloading improves the perceived load times by downloading a page when the user hovers over the link. Okay, so this is going to make your website look a lot quicker, because what's going to happen is, if we go back to the website, at the moment, when I click on this page, it loads. When I click on this page and I load it, that's when it loads. Okay, obviously it's loading from the cache at the moment inside the browser, but if I'd never been to that page before, I click on it for the first time, requests get sent to the server to say, right, give me all the images and the text and the HTML and everything to display on this website. And the user sometimes has to sit there and wait for that to happen. And that's why, some of the pages were loading earlier on. When you enable this setting, this preload, link preloading, okay, let's just do it for now. What happens is, as the mouse starts to hover over this page, technology inside the plugin is saying, I think this user is going to load this page, so let's load it now before he clicks on it. So as I'm hovering over it, it's loading what it needs into the browser in the background, okay? Now, that means then when you click on that page, generally it loads a lot quicker, okay? That's what it generally does. But the downside to it is you actually use a lot more server resources than maybe you need to. So when I click on here, I might go, I changed my mind, actually, I'm going to go over here. Well, I've just loaded that page for no reason. And when you multiply that over, thousands of visitors that you might get, every hour, I don't know how busy a website would be, it can burn up server resources. So if you feel like you've enabled it and you've got much better results and your website's a lot faster, that's great. But if you have any server issues in terms of, resources being eaten up, you may want to disable that. Okay, so just be careful with using it. But we'll leave it on for now because I think it's a good feature. Now, next up, we've got database. Okay, now I am going to touch on advanced rules, but I don't really do anything in here. Okay, the only thing you could do is increase the average, the lifetime of the cache to 24 hours. So it'll automatically clear every 24 hours instead of 10. It's up to you. It's just a preference. It's just something that I've always done for some reason. So we'll just put that there, put it to 23. It's automatically gone there. The next up was the database. Okay, so the database, so weekly cleanup of revisions, transients, and tables. So keep an eye on post revisions if you build for clients. And the reason I want to highlight this is I don't by default automatically clean up revisions, because sometimes, like, I don't know if you've used it before, but when you're inside WordPress and let's say you're editing a page, you'll see that there's post revision. So maybe a version that you had earlier. So it could be that you've made a change and you've gone, oh no, I've accidentally deleted something, or I made a change that I didn't want. I want to revert back. If you've cleared your revisions, you've got nothing to revert back to. Okay. So I don't do that. I made the mistake of doing it before and the client was asking me, where's all my revisions gone? Okay. So I think I don't do that one. I leave it for that reason. Okay. So auto drafts, I definitely want to clear those. I want to put trashed posts. If something gets trashed, yeah, we want to clear it regularly. Spam comments, trashed comments, all transients, because that's temporary files. Transients are temporary options. They are safe to remove. They will automatically regenerate as your plugins require them, the important ones. So you can clear them. You might find, if you've never done anything like this before, that, some of these are quite large numbers. And then optimize tables. So it reduces overhead of database tables. And then one thing I do is I do schedule automatic cleanup on a weekly basis. Okay. And then I save changes. So when you save changes, it's going to clear the ones that we've just ticked, and it'll set up a schedule that every week it's going to run through and clean that up. Okay. So you can see 0000, 66 transients have been regenerated, but I haven't cleared the revisions in case this client wants to log in and, revert back to a previous version. Okay, so that's the database. Advanced So we just covered that, but there's another advance here, which is Heartbeat. CDN, we're not going to use the WP Rocket CDN. So we're going to use the Heartbeat. So as you can see here, so reducing or disabling the Heartbeat's API activity can help save some of your server's resources. So there's a heartbeat that happens, and quite often it can happen quite regularly. And, you know, in some cases you can totally disable this so it saves more resources. But if your website is hooked up to anything and it's like getting notifications, or, you know, you might not want to disable it completely, but I think it's completely safe unless you've got something connected that requires regular attention to put it on reduce activity. So behavior in backend, behavior in post editor, behavior in front end, reduced activity, and then save changes. That's the settings that I generally use for my clients. Okay. So, that's it for the main ones. Okay. So the other ones that you've got here is add-ons. Okay. If I do suggest that everyone does use Cloudflare, it's a free tool. It adds a layer of security, a layer of performance to every website. If you have got it, then you can integrate your website here. We'll walk through that in a second. I believe this website goes through Cloudflare, so we can instantly integrate with Cloudflare. So I don't want this to be a Cloudflare lesson, but if you've got Cloudflare, you can integrate it this way. Okay, so let me just get logged in on Cloudflare. So we'll just enable this, modify options, and then it asks for some global API key. So I'm going to cover these up to make sure that, you know, nobody steals that information. But all you need to do is in your Cloudflare account, you would then go to your profile, and then you click on API tokens, and then click to view your global API key. Okay, so I've got my verification code. Right, let me just add these in. Then you add your email address, and then you get the zone ID. Now the zone ID is retrieved when you click your website in Cloudflare. So if I go to domains, this one is Archway. You can click on it, and then on the right hand side you'll see the zone ID. You can just copy that, paste it in the zone ID, and then the options that I select on this page, and I'm not showing it now because I don't want to show the information. I'll just bring it over here now. So I've put my you know, keys in there, and then I'll put on optimal settings and then save changes. So now WP Rocket and my website are talking with Cloudflare. They're talking back and forth. Okay. If you're not using Cloudflare, don't worry. It's not like an essential thing, but I do recommend that everybody does take advantage of Cloudflare because, like I said, it's free and it adds like a great layer of protection and performance to your website and your server. So, next up, image optimization. I'm not going to cover this in great detail because it's not a feature inside WP Rocket. They have their own version, which is called Imagify. There's other tools out there like Smush Pro, which is what I use, and there's plenty of others as well. And images are probably one of the single most resource consuming element on a website. Okay. So if you've got like massive 5 megabyte images throughout your website, it's going to be difficult to get performance to be really high. Okay. So you need to work on images. Maybe I'll do a separate video on images another time. So just let me know in the comments below if you want me to do something like that. Other than that, you got tools, tutorials, and other plugins that these guys offer. So what I think would be worth doing now is that we head back to Rocket Insights. It's going to be, you know, hard to beat this, but let's just run another test. Okay, so while it's doing that, let's do a speed test on PageSpeed Insights to see if we've had any improvements. So let's let that run. So this website is, you know, lightning fast compared to how it was earlier. Which is exactly, the header doesn't even load on page loads now, which is great. You know, that's so fast. And as you can see now, we've got a 92 score, which, you know, that is an amazing improvement from the 34 that we had at the top of the video. Obviously, there's little things that we can do to improve it a bit more. Things like, you know, image optimization. Like it says here, look, you can optimize the image, delay JavaScript execution, and Rocket CDN. So we're already using Cloudflare. We're going to not do images on this one. And delayed JavaScript, that is definitely going to give me another boost in improvement. But like I said, you have to use that with caution. But let's give it a go and see what happens. So if I delay JavaScript here and I don't enable anything else here and click Save Changes, the key thing is testing your site once you've done this. Okay, so if we head over here, let's do a right click and clear our cache. So that's the first load. Let's just load it again. And if we head back to here and let's do one more test. Again, without image optimization, let's retest. $100 out of 100. So massive improvement from 32. I don't think there's much more we can do to the website than that. And that is without even optimizing our images. So yeah, I'd consider that a massive win. And even our page speed insights score, this is a massive improvement. So this is up to 69 on mobile and 95 on desktop. And that's without optimizing our images. And that's the last thing that we need to do. So if we take a look at the site now, after we've applied everything, just refresh, you can just see how lightning fast this website now is. So this has got nothing to do with page speed scores. This is what we were talking at the top of the video where we were saying user experience. Now, if somebody comes to this website, there's no way they're going to think this is a WordPress website. This looks like, a static website that is just absolutely rapid. Okay, so common mistakes and why it's worth it. So turning everything on at once. Combine.js is the biggest culprit. Always enable settings one at a time and test, okay? Because like I said before, you don't know which one has caused the problem because there's a chance that something might break when you're applying all these testings. So just don't do that. Just do them one at a time and just see how the results are, being affected. And if there's anything that's out of place, go back, disable it, and then we'll learn how to do an exclude. So next, testing in your normal browser. So WP Rocket clears this cache automatically on save, but your browser doesn't. So use incognito window or do like I did, right click, inspect, and then hard reload and clear your cache. Because what you don't want to do is get, wrong results by just using your browser cache. Now, while we're on this, let me just show you how you do clear the cache in WP Rocket. So from any page, as long as you're logged into the admin, you'll see the WP Rocket menu here, and you'll see a few different options. So you can clear priority elements. You can clear used CSS. And you can clear and preload the cache. Okay, so just work through them. That's the order that I generally do them. And then that gives you a fresh start so you can start rebuilding everything again. So ignoring mobile. Most people obsess over the desktop score, forget that mobile is where the traffic is. And quite often you'll need to make changes to the website itself just to get the mobile score to increase. But don't worry about that. It's just part of the process of what you need to do. But the last thing you want to do is ignore mobile because like we said at the start, they're the users that will have the least patience because they're going to be on a slower network or possibly on a slower network. And skipping image optimization. Honestly, caching alone will not save you if your images are 5 megabytes each. Pair it with Smush, ShortPixel, or Imagify. Like I said, that's more of a separate video. That's not about WP Rocket itself. But there's definitely tools that you can use. Like I said, Smush is one that I use, and you can use WebP Express as well to make sure that you're serving your images in next-gen format. So you can definitely go and check those out. But like I said, if you want me to make a video, just leave me a comment below. And is it worth the money? So free options do exist, things like Light, Speed Cache, Hummingbird, W3 Total Cache. But I honestly get better results with WP Rocket, faster, less faff, and on 100 sites, the time saving just pays for itself. And the license is well worth the money when you've got multiple websites to do it for. So that's the end of it. So this is a quick summary of what we've covered. So, we've covered why speed matters, why WP Rocket, Rocket Insights, and my standard WP Rocket setup, and then mistakes and why it's worth it. So hopefully you found that useful. I'm a massive fan of WP Rocket, and hopefully you are too, and hopefully you found good value in this video. And if you've got any questions, then just leave them in the comments below and I'll be more than happy to help. See you on the next one.